Can you give me an overview of your story, what college you attended, and like where you grew up, how you started in your career?
I grew up as part of a military family. My father, so I've lived in California, Ohio, and Japan growing up. So I really got to meet people from different cultures, a lot of diversity, and it's really helped me actually, even in the role that I've had today. Um, Having to move around a lot really helped me adapt more to different communities as well. I really got started in transportation by accident. It was not among my career, choices or desires. Essentially, um, right out of college, I had moved to Alexandria, Virginia, to work in Washington, D.C. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I decided to come back to California to stay with my parents because I was going to apply to business school then. I was going to go to grad school then. And I thought that summer, while I would go through the process, that I would just sign up for a temp agency, right? To just do temporary work until I got into school full time. And Anaya, my first temp assignment was with a transportation agency in San Bernardino County in their finance department. And so, I remember showing up to work and really being surprised to see that there were these people who had, influence and were making decisions about, what communities had bus service or train service, what kind of funding they got. So I thought, you know what, maybe I should hold off on going to grad school and I should stick around in this job for a while longer. And that's what I did. So it was by accident that I got into transportation.
My second question is, growing up, did you see yourself becoming a civil engineer and project manager?
Well, I would tell you, I didn't know what an engineer was. I didn't know what a project manager was. I didn't even learn truly what a project manager was until maybe a few years after I started working in transportation, which is why I'm really excited that Metro has partnered with the County of LA on the SEED school. SEED LA is the first public boarding school in California. It's going to have a STEM focus. They're starting with 9th grade. They'll open this fall. It's going to be high school, but it's really going to expose the students to all types of careers in transportation. Because Anaya, when I would think about transportation before I got into the field, I just thought about a bus operator. I don't really think that in transportation, you have lawyers, you have marketers, you have technologists, you have planners, you have engineers, you have all kinds, I just was not aware. And I really believe, particularly for our community and people of color, we just need to be, shared the information. Awareness is powerful, but you're not even aware. You don't even know, the opportunities that can be there for you. So yeah, I did not know about this career. And in fact, even for college, my dad told me what I was going to major in. He's like, okay, you're majoring in computer science. I'm like, okay. And he had read a lot and he saw that computers were the future. And after my freshman year, I'm like, I don't want to do computer science. And so that's eventually how I ended up with business. But yeah, I think we can be more intentional with our communities and with the next generation. And that is really working to increase awareness about transportation careers earlier while people are still in school. And in fact, I'm happy that a couple months ago, we just started at Metro our first ever youth council, ages 14 through 17, to really give them exposure to careers in transportation, but also, the planning process and how we plan service or how we plan projects. So really excited about that, really making sure more people are aware of opportunities.
The next question is, how did you find your passion in this field?
I think I found my passion when I realized that the decisions that I was making for a project or program, when I could see that those decisions were affecting people's lives for the positive. You know, it's a great privilege to be in a position to really help people and help empower people. And so I knew I had a passion for this when I could see the smile on their faces, particularly when I knew the smile came because they finally found someone in me who was willing to listen to their needs, and then be in a position to help positively respond to their needs. That's very powerful, and that's what drives me today.
Next question. What barriers have you experienced in the workplace or college as a woman in a non-traditional career?
At times during my career, people would say, well, you can't work on that project because the men won't report to a woman. And so, you know, fortunately, my boss, who was a male, you know, didn't subscribe to that. But, you know, every once in a while, I would hear things like, well, I don't know if we should give her more responsibility because she doesn't have a lot of construction experience. And construction is, you know, a career that is dominated by men. I will say, you know, as a person of color, as a Black woman, I see more barriers because I was Black than actually being a woman. But my experience was that as I moved higher up in my career, particularly in the C-suite, that's when my gender was also an issue and not just my race.
Do you feel like the more you advance in your career, the more challenges and barriers you have faced?
Fine, because people have their own, we all have, you know, implicit unconscious bias. And I think as a Black person and then a woman too in the workplace, my experience is I'm often underestimated. So as I moved up, there were more challenges because I think people were surprised that someone like me would be in those positions.
Okay. My next question is, what was one of the hardest lessons you learned in life and how did you overcome it?
I think one of the hardest lessons I've learned in my career is that to be effective in the role that you have, it doesn't matter what role you have, not just CEO, doesn't matter what your responsibility is. When you are in service to others, it's important that the decisions you make are in the best interest of the agency that you represent and not your own personal self-interest. I think that was an important lesson to learn, and a hard one to learn, because when I think about my career early on, I thought, particularly since, you know, I was often underestimated, because whenever I walked into a room, my skin color spoke before I did. You know, since I was underestimated, I felt like I needed to prove that I was right and demonstrate that I was right, right? And when you do that, you can lose sight of what the real intention or purpose is for being in that role. And, you know, I think it taught me how to value conflict resolution and to be more collaborative and to be a better listener. And that's what I try to do every day.
Great. Thank you so much for your insight. Okay, our next question is, what advice would you give the younger generation if they want to pursue the same career path as you?
My advice, and it's a quote from Brené Brown. It's not my quote, but it's something that I live by. And it's to choose courage over comfort. You know, if I was, had to give advice to my younger self, there were times, particularly as a first generation college student, for me, I did not, raise my hand and, you know, volunteer for more things, or particularly in college to network more. Um, I would encourage you as you start your career journey to really, really don't self-select yourself out from anything. You know, I would oftentimes early on in my career, there would be promotional opportunities, and I would think that I would need to have all the elements of the job description before I should even apply. And I would self-select myself out of those opportunities. I would also say that for me, um, I only grow professionally when I come out of my comfort zone and I try something new. So that's also why choosing courage over comfort is something that um, is the advice that I would want to share with you, because I think that's where true growth happens, when you try new things.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. My final question to you, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I would say that don't limit yourself. Don't put limits on yourself, and that you have incredible opportunities. I would I would say don't listen to that inner voice that is telling you maybe you can't do it. Just quiet that voice.